If you want to cut serious weight from your backpacking kit, you want to focus on these 3 specific items. They're actually called the big 3, and they can really make or break your whole backpacking trip and the entire makeup of like your whole backpacking kit. So first off, I'm just gonna tell you what the big 3 actually are, and I'm gonna show you all of them and what I use and that kind of stuff in just a minute here. But the big 3, the first one is your backpack itself. So really hard to go backpacking without an actual backpack. Otherwise, you're just carrying all your stuff in your arms, and it gets really difficult really fast. The second one is your tent or your shelter, which also actually could be like a tent or a hammock or a bivvy, that kind of thing, but it's your shelter as a whole. And then the third one is your sleep system. So that'll be like your quilt or your sleeping bag, and then your sleeping pad, and then maybe some people add like a pillow or something like that. But the third one's your sleep system. So we're gonna get straight into it here. The first one of the big 3, like I said, is your backpack itself. So your backpacking pack, however you wanna say it. The one that I use a lot of different packs, and I own different packs and that sort of thing. But the one that I usually just really end up going back to time and again because of how reliable it's been and that sort of thing, which I'll get into in a second, is the Granite Gear Blaze AC60. So this is a little bit of an older model, and that's sort of a case in point actually of why I actually love this backpack. Is I bought this years ago, and actually even when I bought it 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I bought it used, and it's still just holding up really well. And it's still one of my go-to favorite packs of all time. So this is actually one that I will lend out to people if I'm taking them with me on the trail and they don't have their own gear. I'll give them this one because it is just absolutely one of the most comfortable packs, one of the most versatile. It is really simple to use and really clean. And it's just really never let me down for myself on a trail or for anybody that I've given it to. I've never heard any complaints from anybody when I've given this to them to use on the trail. They always love this pack, and they always like ask about it and want to buy it themselves and that kind of stuff. So the Granite Gear Blaze AC60 is just an absolutely amazing pack. It's a top-down pack, so you pack everything in, and if you have to get something from the bottom, you have to pull everything out. But it's basically just a really simple tube, top-down packing bag, and then it has a mesh pocket on the front, one on each side for water bottles, that sort of thing, and then really good hip belt, really good ventilation system on the back. It is sized small, medium, and large, and then within those sizes, you can actually adjust your pack within that to fit like your actual frame and how it should fit on you, that kind of stuff. So very versatile pack, and I love it. For all of these items I'm actually going to be showing you, I'm going to put links down in the description below if you want to go check them out yourself. They are going to be affiliate links, so it costs you nothing extra to click on those links and go through that. So if you're planning on like purchasing any of this stuff, go ahead and click on the link. It helps me out. And also it costs you nothing extra. So just so you know, I just want to tell you that on the front end there, that there will be affiliate links in the description below for all this stuff. And I'm going to also put everything up on the screen for you so you can see the specs of everything that I'm showing you. But yes, number 1 is the Granite Gear Blaze AC60 backpack. Absolutely love this thing. So there you go. Number 2 of the big 3 is your shelter. So I about said tent, is your shelter. So your shelter can be your tent, your hammock, or your bivvy, or I guess whatever else, I don't know, a tarp, just like a simple tarp or whatever. But for me, it's a tent most of the time. So what I end up using is the Big Agnes Fly Creek HV UL2. It's a really long name. You can use a 1-person tent or a 2 or whatever it is that you need. I usually end up going for a 2-person because most of the time when I'm going on trips, I'm bringing somebody with me, at least 1 person with me, and we'll share the tent. So I usually end up carrying a 2-person tent with me. You can do a 1-person, just whatever works best for you. But the Big Agnes Fly Creek UL2 has been a really great tent for me, and it has really just been really robust and durable, and actually has gone with me to a lot of different places on the trail. And this one as well, so I talked about the backpack I bought it used. This one as well, I bought it used, and it has just been a really robust tent for me. So I have the specs up on the screen for you so you can see the weight and the dimensions of it and that kind of stuff. One thing I will say is that when I'm packing this at home, I just keep it like this. But when it's in my backpack or I'm packing it on the trail, I'll pull the tent pole bag out of here. So that way I can compress the tent more down, and then I just pack the poles separate. So that way it's not going to be this size in your bag. It's just, this is just how I like to store it at home. So it's a little bit easier to store at home when I just have everything together, and I don't have to try to remember where I put the tent poles separate than the tent itself. So yeah, Big Agnes HVUL2. And finally, the third one here is my sleep system. So what I end up using is the Thermarest NeoAir Uberlite. It's a very lightweight sleeping pad, and it also has a decent heat rating. Not amazing, but decent for what I need it for. And it's just, I mean, like the pack size of this thing is so small, and it's so lightweight compared to most other sleeping pads that I have used. So the combination of how small it packs plus the weight of it and what it can do for me is just this really nice like combination in that spectrum of all of those things. So this is one that I end up going back to time and again. So for all of this stuff, I'll have the specs up on the screen for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But the Thermarest NeoAir Uberlite is what I use for my sleeping pad. So for me, I actually have this quilt that I made myself that I sewed. It's a down backpacking quilt. And this one is like a 15-degree bag, something like that. But this is one that I'll end up taking with me on a fair amount of my trips. This one, more than almost anything else in the entire big three, is really dependent on what season you're backpacking in. So I end up usually backpacking in spring or fall for some reason, mostly. So the 15-degree bag is really good for me in that way. But if I need to have a bag that's not quite so hot, I also use a Marmot bag that's like a down bag that's like a 40-degree or 35-degree bag. So I'll use that one as well. But the number three of your big three is your sleep system. So that's your pad and your bag or quilt or whatever you want to call it. I also did mention earlier that sometimes people bring pillows with them as part of their sleep system. You can. To me, it just adds a lot of extra weight and space, like takes space that I don't really want in my bag for it to take. So instead of taking a separate pillow, what I'll end up usually doing, just a little pro tip for you, is I'll take my clothes bag or whatever it is, and then I'll actually just like tie that up and kind of like roll that up in such a way that I can put that behind my head and use that as a pillow, because you're only using one set of clothes every day. So you just take the rest of it and use that as a pillow. And so you save weight on packing a pillow, and then you can also just sort of reuse that utility of that bag of clothes for a pillow instead. So hope that's helpful. So I've just showed you what my big three are, and those don't have to be your big three. They're just ones that work really well for me, and why it's so important to pick the big three for yourself that work for you is because all of these are going to drastically affect the quality of trip you have. So if your backpack doesn't fit well, or if it doesn't pack well for you, if you don't like using your backpack, that's going to really affect your whole trip. Same thing with your tent. If it doesn't set up well for you, if it's annoying to set up or frustrating, or it doesn't fit you and your, if it's a two-person, if like both of you don't fit in it very well, or whatever it is, that's going to affect your trip really drastically. In the same way, especially with your sleep system, if you can't sleep very well on the trail, that's going to be a really big deterrent, because you're not going to get good sleep, which means you're not going to rest well, you're not going to be energized for the next day, all that kind of stuff. And if there's anything I've learned, is that if you don't sleep well somewhere, you really don't enjoy it. So picking a really good sleep system for yourself that has the R value that you need for the season that you're going in, really important. So that's why it's so important to pick the right big three for yourself. So do your own research and figure out what you need. And also you can watch some other videos that I've posted on that kind of stuff as well, because I've done other videos on sort of all these different items, but that's why it's so important. I'm also going to put on the screen here my total weight for my big three. So I'll kind of put like the weight for each of them and then combine total of what my whole big three is. So you can kind of use that as a baseline for yourself. I'm considered my full base weight, pack weight, all that kind of stuff is pretty much considered lightweight. So lightweight is right around 20 pounds, and then ultralight would be like 9 or 12 pounds or something like that, even lighter. Anything under like 12 pounds is ultralight. Lightweight is like 15 to 25 pound base weight, and then sort of like standard backpacking weight would be like 40 pounds. It's about as heavy as you want to be for a base weight. That'd be pretty heavy, but I'll put all my stuff up on the screen here for you so you can kind of see where I'm at, and then maybe use that as a baseline for yourself. Just a couple of quick tips for beginners, or for all I know, experienced backpackers as well if you're watching this. But just a couple of quick tips for you is start wherever you're comfortable, and then just sort of work your way down, budget-wise and also just personal comfort-wise. So don't feel like you have to try to hit my baseline right away, or don't feel like you have to cut everything and basically just be sleeping on the ground and be like, okay, cool, I got to like a low base weight, but you're super uncomfortable, you're not sleeping, and you're unprotected from the environment or the elements or whatever it is. So start high and just kind of slowly like upgrade your gear as you go. So it doesn't have to be a 0 to 100 thing all at once. If you can start off your backpacking journey, ultralight or lightweight or whatever's comfortable for you, then cool. but don't feel like you have to. So I definitely started off with like a base weight of 40 or 45 pounds. And then I just kind of kept working it down. I kept buying new gear and upgrading, and something would be on sale, so I'd swap it out, that kind of stuff. So just start at a normal weight, whatever's comfortable for you, and then just start slowly, just sort of cutting away those pounds and ounces and all that kind of stuff as you go. And this will be a lot more comfortable for you because you can slowly adjust your pack weight until you're comfortable. So that's, yeah, just, you know, progress. You can just progress. You don't have to like go from 0 to 100. Just slowly work stuff every trip. The next thing I will say is that, for one thing, lighter isn't always better. If it's so light that you're uncomfortable and you don't have comfort on the trail one way or another, then you've gone too light. So lightweight is not always better. Also, pick good quality gear. That's really important. Sometimes companies will make ultra light gear that will, you know, break after your first trip, and now you're spending a bunch of money on ultra light gear that breaks after every trip, and it's just not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth it. So lightweight, the lightest is not always the best. Just get gear that is also built high quality, but is also light. Does that make sense? And the final thing is, don't chase the ultralight kind of goal if it's not what you need or what you want. I actually don't want to be ultralight. I'm considered a lightweight backpacker because my base weight is in like kind of that lightweight range, but I actually don't want to be ultralight. The reason for this is because once you start getting to a certain point of getting closer to ultralight, you start cutting things that are more comfort items, and you start cutting things that you don't really want to live without, but you feel like you have to because you're trying to be ultralight and have like the lowest base weight you possibly can. But you no longer enjoy yourself on the trail because you've cut so much that you don't actually get to enjoy coffee. Or, you know, some people just have luxury items that they don't want to give up, myself included. So somebody I know will bring a stove system, but they also bring an extra cup because they want to be able to kind of sip coffee while they're making breakfast. So you have to have 2 cups to do that. But ultralight would say only use 1 cup, that kind of thing. Or cold soak everything, which is basically eating everything without cooking at all, so you can bring no cook system. So figure out where your happy medium is and just live there. So don't feel like you have to chase the ultralight title if you don't want it. So seriously, dialing in your big 3 is going to help you cut a lot of your weight, since the big 3 ends up being like 50 or 60% of the weight of your entire base weight. So if you can really dial those in and cut back the weight where you can, and just slowly upgrade those items over time until it's comfortable for you, and get those 3 right, and the rest of your kit just sort of packs around it and kind of forms, kind of like adjusts to be a part of that big 3. And that's really going to help you out in the long run. So drop your big 3 down in the comments below, what your actual big 3 are and what your base weight is, and then what your weight is for your big 3 down in the comments below. I love seeing what you guys kind of pack out, what you build out for your own backpacking kit. And if you want to do any more deep dives on this kind of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.